need to go to production, we need to go to water extractor, and then we need to do the horrible thing of putting a non-packaged water system. My gosh. Ugh. Horrible. My gosh. So bad. I don't know what I was thinking. Who would ever do such a thing? Golly. Here, let's stop being a water snob for a second. And I'm gonna get a singleton. Actually, no, I take that back. I'm all over the place today. Because, well, I'm always all over the place, but I'm always all over the place. Man, I cannot believe this episode is about rubber. My mind can't get over that. Why am I making a whole episode on rubber when I'm working with nuclear? You know what? This is fine. This is fine. Heck, I'm gonna have probably a whole episode on making a sandal or a slipper to go to the beach. Let's maybe that's next. How about that? All right, HB, just get over yourself. It's just rubber. My gosh. And don't you know that when the rubber hits the road, that's the most critical moment, right? It's like the king of traction. All right. Stop psyching yourself up. No need. We've got this. You've got this. All right, do it up, buddy. Hang in there. I talk to myself all the time just so that I can get through the day. In this case, I'm just trying to get through Satisfactory. I mean, what does that really say? Now, you're probably wondering, why are we back at the Power Lagoon? Well, as I was going through and preparing a lot of the packaged water, I actually noticed that I ran out of rocket fuel for the very first time, and that freaked me the heck out. But let me tell you, I was very, very pleased that we actually had 300 cubic meters of rocket fuel to be processed that I hadn't even touched yet. So I came out here and I doubled the production. So one of the cool things is I've never seen all of these resources flowing smoothly, and now they're mostly all being used. So they're moving as smoothly as they can. And that means that we're using all 8 of the different blenders out here. And the last one was Delta, and now Delta is marked up as green because now we're processing both Delta and Hotel worth of rocket fuel. That's 600 cubic meters worth of rocket fuel in order to create 300 per minute of packaged rocket fuel. And finally, instead of this being empty, it is now full and overflowing. So I'm very, very happy about that. And so are all of the rest of our operation all throughout our world here in Satisfactory 1.0. All right, so here we are back at the nuclear power plant. And since the last time that we played, I've actually been able to flush some things out. So you can see that P1 through 8, all of the plutonium nuclear power plants, now kind of have some drone ports behind them. It's not completely finished, but at least the footprint is down. And if we look around the backside, they actually have all of the packagers. That's all 40 packagers for these 8 right here, all laid out. Now, I took out our little factory cart operation back here to make room for the packagers. Also, I kind of figured I'm going to be using the factory carts to move other things to other stations, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So instead, I've done this. So if we look at the flow of the uranium waste, it's now moving through this glass corridor, and it kind of the idea that it's like a protected corridor, and all the uranium waste is going to flow more consistently, which I'm very, very, very happy about, because then I don't have to worry about whether or not these things are going to be fed at the appropriate rate, etc., etc. So that should be a real treat to work with. Today, we're going to be working on pressure conversion cubes, or at least some steps to get them, because if you look at this recipe to make plutonium fuel rods, we're going to need 2 per minute to power all 8 P1 through 8 of our nuclear power plants. And that means we need 2 per minute of pressure conversion cubes. Now, down the lane, when we get to Fixonium, we're actually also going to need 2 per minute of pressure conversion cubes. So that means we're going to need 4 per minute of pressure conversion cubes by the end of this entire process. So I figured we might as well shoot for 4 per minute, even though we only need 2 per minute for the plutonium section. And then we can pass the other 2 per minute down the lane using factory carts, which they're so small, but we can have a little army of factory carts passing the extra 2 per minute down the lane, and at least we don't have to worry about them crashing into, you know, other factory carts out there and stuff like that. So how are we going to do this? Because we're doing this from scratch, and this, I don't know if we're going to be able to make the pressure conversion cubes in this episode. I highly doubt it, but we can at least take steps to that end. So let's start and work backwards. If we take 2 assemblers and they're at 200% for pressure conversion cubes, it's going to be 2 per minute per assembler. We're going to require 8 total radio control units, and we're going to require 4 total fuse modular frames. The fuse modular frames are handled in the blender. I'm not even going to touch fuse modular frame because we need heavy modular frames and stuff before that, but we'll deal with that at another time. So that means the focus today is actually on creating 8 per minute radio control units in order to satisfy this half, which is a quarter of that. So behind that, how do we make those radio control units? So all colored in green, and these machines back here, this is what we're going to need. We're going to have the radio control unit recipe. We're going to need aluminum casing, crystal oscillators, and computers, and we're going to need to double that up, hence the 2. The aluminum casing is fine because we actually have an assembler back here that can create these things, but the crystal oscillators and the computers are the hard part, right? So we're going to need 4 per minute of crystal oscillators. So these crystal oscillators are made with rubber, AI limiters, and quartz crystal. We're actually creating AI limiters down there, so we already have a production for it. So it's really coming down to the rubber because we've got quartz crystal on the top row of this conveyor wall right here. And then we're going to use Deuterium computer to make 8 per minute of computers. That's going to require 32 circuit boards, quick wire, and then rubber again. So we know the rubber we need for the crystal oscillators. The quick wire, we've got Deuterium ingots behind us. And then the circuit boards are going to be created by these assemblers using copper sheets and silica. So again, we've got silica just flying by right there, and we've got copper right there. So I don't think this will be a problem. So that's kind of like the small, easy, low-hanging fruit. Now, how are we going to do the rubber? So we're going to use 2 polymer resin refineries at 100%. It's going to create 260 per minute of polymer resin. We're going to take 4 refineries outputting, I think it's like 130 rubber per minute. I think it was like 260 polymer resin, right? Yeah, 130, 130. And 2 of these refineries are going to process 130. You can see it's 65 in, 65 in, 65 out, right? 65 rubber. And then we're just going to double that. So that's 4 of those, 65 times 2, right? And then on the flip end of that, we've got heavy oil residue that we're going to have to worry about. So we have 40 per minute of heavy oil residue byproduct. We're just going to essentially take that, turn it into petroleum coke, sink that out. Maybe we'll use it somewhere else, but I don't think so. So we'll just sink it out. So that's the grand plan. Are we going to do all this today? Probably not. Probably not. We should probably choose a subset of this. I think the beginning of it all is actually going to be the rubber. So we're going to need to create the rubber. And we're going to need to make room for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 refineries, which is quite a lot of space, right? So if we head on over to the right, you'll see where I have a port to receive oil drums. Now, we're currently processing 120 per minute of the oil drums, and we definitely have enough throughput because if we look at where we're pulling them from, they're moving at 360 per minute. So that means if we tap into another 120 per minute of that, that's only 240. We still have another 120 to go. So we have a buffer there for the throughput. So I think it's going to be fine. So we've got oil drums coming in here, and we kind of had an empty space right here. I'm thinking we could use some of this empty space, and then we could, I don't know if I'm going to be able to fit 7 refineries here. I highly doubt it, but we can definitely do some of the processing here. If not, we can figure out a different place to put them. Maybe we'll use this empty space over here next to all the drone ports. Oh, I totally forgot. I totally forgot. I actually put some glass here to make it look a little bit better, and I think it looks a lot cleaner now. So it kind of reminds me of like a big stadium or something like that. It caught my eye. Even I forgot I did this. So right now it looks like this, like a giant warehouse. And everything's just flowing through. It's a giant warehouse, and they're just pulling in materials and processing it and sending it out on the glass floor. So you get the idea. It's pretty simple, but I think it looks grand, and it's pretty easy to maneuver around. I'm probably going to do some additional coloring and stuff like that, but in the meantime, this is what I got, and I actually really like it. I really, really like it. Let's see, where are we going to make the rubber? I have half a mind to use this space right here. If I kind of spitball it and put the rubber in, we're going to go ahead and maybe fit like 4, right? Because if we look at our copper sheet production in the distance, we were able to fit 4 in about this amount of space. So if I just grab a refinery and try to lay out 7, is that something that I can do comfortably? No. Already you can see, right? I mean, you can see why I only hit 4 in this space, because you put a little bit of space in between. I mean, no space, you're going to have 5. And even that's going to be pretty tight. And then you've got 2 more. So it makes me think we'll probably want to have, let's say, the processing of the oil into the heavy oil residue and the petroleum coke maybe here. And then we can have the rubber somewhere else, right? And that's going to be passing polymer resin somewhere else. So I don't know. That doesn't seem to make too much sense to me, though, because the polymer resin you're going to want to process pretty regularly and right away. I think passing the rubber seems to make more sense to me. So you could get away with maybe taking away, moving this sink somewhere and maybe putting a refinery up here. You could put a couple of refineries up here. I could take our reinforced iron plates. Let's go in and clear this out. We don't need that there. That was a reinforced iron plate thing that I was just sort of spitballing I could put there, but maybe we don't need it there. And that leaves, you'll see it's actually empty underneath. Yeah? So it's empty underneath and there isn't really too much going on there. So we can actually put 2 here and that might work. Let's try it. Let's try it. Yeah? Let's try it. So we can get an awesome sink maybe, and we will do the excess over here instead. So let's go ahead and just put the machine down. Just pass like this. And then hand that in. And it's going to be an overflow specifically for the copper sheets. And that's going to be, I mean, that is still kind of important. So we'll keep that in mind. Let's go ahead and grab a hole right here. We'll pass across. And then come on up. I'm curious, that might be too tight. Yeah, that might be a little bit too tight. So what I'm going to do is just make sure that this lines up. So I'm going to go hold. That looks about right. That looks about right. And we're just going to place that up there. We'll receive from the splitter. And then we'll pass into the splitter. There we go. Just so that it actually, you know, lines up appropriately. Perfect. And then I'll just color this up. And that should feed right into that awesome sink. The awesome sink does have power right now temporarily. And then we just got to hook up this end, right? So right now we have it overflowing out this way. So all we have to do is divert it. So instead of passing all the way through, it just goes from here and then goes in here. Just like that. So just diverting the lane. Perfect. So that's going to take care of that. And we can actually clear this out so it's a little bit cleaner going across. And I can get the same copper sheets. And I'll put this right there and paste. Perfect. All I've done is transplant this over so that I can make some space on this side so that we can process the oil right on site as opposed to taking it elsewhere and then splitting the whole refinery operation all over the place, which just could be very messy, right? So if I look now, everything looks clean. That's good. Excellent. All right. So now let me take 2 of the refineries. I'm going to put them right up here. We might have to get kind of squishy, right? Oh, wait a minute. Hang on. They're oil drums. I need to unpack this. Never mind. I forgot. I need to unpack this. So actually, we're going to need to put packagers here. All right. I really made this very difficult for myself now, didn't I? Okay, so new layer of complexity. Totally forgot about the packagers. Well, let's go ahead and just place one down and we'll see what the rate is. I don't recall. If I remember, it's 2 packagers to unpack 120 per minute. So I'm just going to go ahead and give it a little bit of space, put them right next to each other. We'll color them up black so that they're processing oil. And unpackage oil, yep, it's 60 per minute. And then we've got the empty canisters as well. So let me just go ahead and place that there. Excellent. And then we've got to pass in and then pass back, right? So this is going to be interesting. I mean, I suppose I could just take the oil and just pass it straight across and then loop the empty canisters underneath. So that means that stuff's coming out this way, and I'm going to go ahead and pass empty canisters back. So there's like a whole thing. Heck, this episode might just be about rubber. I did not anticipate that, but we'll have to see how this goes. Yeah, I guess I don't even really need to pass it under unless I want to hide more things, but I don't know if I really want to hide more things. What if we actually lift it and we'll pass this through? I suppose we'll come across from this side and then I'll lift up and she'll come in like this. So the barrels will already flow, right? Because the barrels are already all in there. They're all stacked up and ready to go. So we'll just get that all colored up. We have a bunch of packaged oil. We'll just throw down a power pole. Attach it here. And that should start to... So no power, no power. Oh, that's right, because I didn't actually hook this up to something. Okay, fair enough. Let's find this pole there. Excellent. So there they go. And now they're pumping out oil, and they'll very, very, very quickly stop because they don't have anywhere to put all this stuff, right? So that's number one. That's number one. Now, for the canisters, I suppose we shall just keep this tight and up to the packager as best we can. And they'll receive those empty canisters. And we'll just color them as unpainted. And these empty canisters specifically are going back into the loop for the oil, so I can't mix them up, right? I can't mix those up. This is blocked. I could have them go around, or I could bring this a little farther out, which I'm more inclined to do. So I'm just going to take... This is dead on, and I'll go 1 and 2 like that. And we'll go back to unpainted. And then we'll hop off the edge. There's a door right there. There's a door right there, my gosh. And then we'll just grab that. Ooh, we're like 1 off. There it is. You can already see the barrels stop flowing because we have no place for the empty canisters and no place for the actual oil. We only needed 1 more click. I'm pretty confident about it, and there we go. Excellent. So we'll mark that as unpainted. And then we've got the empty canister flow here, specifically for oil empty canisters. We'll merge together and out. I don't know if this lines up, but we'll see. Actually, no, there's no way that this lines up. Yeah, it's got a little bit of a kink in it. So what I can do... Actually, is that important? No. No, it's not. It's not important at all. We'll live with a little bit of a wave. I'm going to live with a little bit of a wave. And there we go. So we're passing that back. Excellent. So there go the empty canisters. Now, obviously, we still have the oil. But at least we've unpackaged the oil. And that took up that slot right there. So obviously, we're going to have oil pipes. And those oil pipes are going to come down and flow over to this side. But... at least we've got some type of mechanism to process this and unpackage it. And now we can use the oil. So the oil's going into 2 different refineries, specifically the polymer resin refineries. So let's go ahead and clear these out. And we'll just grab a couple. I suppose we should probably elevate this. So let's just extend it. It'll be 2 tall, or 2 walls tall. And we can fit 4 comfortably here. And honestly, I don't need this anymore because we are going to be flush up to the ports. So I'm just going to open that up and we'll beautify that or make that make more sense later. And we'll just fill that all in. So now it's 1 big platform. I mean, I suppose I could stack these on top of each other. It's not like I can't put refineries on top of each other. I've done that before. It's just... rather cumbersome is all, but we'll see. If I need to, I will. I totally didn't even think about that just because so far we've been having them out in the open along with the particle accelerators, and I just generally feel like, you know, that makes the most sense, but we'll see. 2 refineries that are processing the oil directly, right? And I'm going to mark them up as polymer resin. So they're going to be this white and blue. And here's the polymer resin recipe. And it's going to be 120 per minute total. So paste. And there we go. So 60 per minute. And we've got 60 per minute of the oil in order to produce 260 per minute of the polymer resin. Just like that. Now, the polymer resin we can always pass somewhere else. We can honestly get 2 refineries here just to... Well, actually, we only need 1 refinery to process all of the heavy oil residue and turn it into petroleum coke. Maybe that's what we'll do. Right here, we'll take the output petroleum coke, we'll process it, and then we'll sink out the excess. So I can have a sink right next to it. So this is actually going back and forth because the output is this way, and then it's going to feed into this one, and then the output is going to feed into this one. I have half a mind to flip this around so that it just passes it into the input. So like take a refinery like this, flip it around like this, and then just put it next door like so. And if this is petroleum coke, I'm going to mark it up as black. And then I always mark up my sinks as red. And then this way it zigzags through like that. All right. So I'm just going to forget about feeding this with the oil, because once I do that, everything is going to start. And I'm going to start with the polymer resin. I suppose, where are the other refineries going to be? I'm going to need 4 more of these. Obviously, they're not going to be right here unless they're above. If not above, where, I guess is the question. We could have it on the backside and then run rubber all the way down, because we're going to need rubber in multiple places. So, I mean, I could have it over here, but how do you get polymer resin from there to there while still being somewhat elegant about it, right? So that the eye can track it, because I really want the eye to be able to track all of these things. That would be my ideal. Now, I could take this whole operation and move it over here, which would totally fit. And then, you know, have something over here, and then the rubber doesn't have to go as far. But I don't know. I mean, I almost feel like we could have the rubber somewhere else, like in this gap over here, and then have a truck stop, and the truck stop could move the little factory carts. We could do something like that, and that'll keep it relatively clean. All right, I just had a realization, and I realized that we're going to need water in order to make the rubber, and this is what I'm talking about. If I put down a refinery right here and we take a look, we need to process that residual rubber, right? And it takes water as well as polymer resin in order to make the rubber. Now, the big issue is, where are we going to get the water? As much as I'd like to say I'm going to pipe in more of the drones to send packaged water, I don't know if I have it in me to make another another installation of water just to process some rubber. So I'm thinking what we can do is take the polymer resin and we'll move it through this building out here, and we're just going to utilize water extractors from this area in order to actually process the rubber, and then we'll use factory carts to move the rubber where it needs to go. I think today's going to be about rubber, and I had no idea that it was going to be, but you know, this is a more complicated process than I had expected. Let's start with what we've got, and then we'll go from there. Let's take it in baby steps, right? There's no point in getting overly complicated with it until we actually hit that wall, right? So we've already dealt with the empty canisters right here. We've already passed in the oil drums, and we're essentially going to pass the oil into these 2 machines. There's no other inputs needed. Now the output, on the other hand, we've got oil residue that's going to head into here, the heavy oil residue. So let's just pass it to the left. There's no point in overcomplicating it and put it underneath and then bring it back up, right? So we'll go, although I mean, we totally could, because, you know, we don't have to worry about the head lift or anything like that, but we'll just get this pipeline and we'll bring it out, let's say, right here. And then we'll come on down like this. And then we'll get 1 junction. And then just merge into it like that. There it is. Now I'm probably going to need to reconnect these just to be sure. So we'll get the Mark 1 and Mark 1 like so. And then we're going to color them up as purple. because that's the heavy oil residue output. And that looks pretty good because we're going to have 40 per minute coming out. They're just going to merge together and then pass in here. And we're going to do petroleum coke 40 per minute in a 120 per minute. And that 120 per minute is just going to get sunk out. So that's relatively straightforward. So let's go ahead and take care of that. And then we don't have to worry about it anymore. So we'll have this come on down. And then we'll have it come back right on up, right? So just because I do want it to be relatively easy to follow. So we'll go red, red like that because it's going to get sunk out immediately and the petroleum coke's just going to go next door. So we'll breach the wall and just receive straight across. So there's the sand. And that's going to be red, red, and red for the sink. There it is. All right, so that takes care of the petroleum coke. Heavy oil residue coming on in. That's perfect. I suppose I could just get some temporary power poles. So I'll go with a Mark III. And we'll power up all the refineries as well. And the sink. There it is. Okay. So the polymer resin, on the other hand, we're going to have to pass through this building right here. So we'll be passing it across the way. So what does it look like underneath? I already forgot. I'd like it if we could pass it across the ceiling if possible, but it's looking like it's getting pretty heavy in here. I mean, I suppose we could pass it along the outside or over or something like that. I could pass it down below, but then it'll obstruct this walkway. Let's do this. Let's do this. This might work. I'm not entirely sure. So I'm going to grab this conveyor wall, put this right here. We'll go and button this up. We'll do this and then see if it clicks to one. Negative. I mean, I suppose I could just let it come down naturally. And what I'm talking about is like this, which is also acceptable, but I like using the lift just because it's got square angles. But let's not get too hung up on it. So we'll have this go across because I know that you can walk underneath one of these, right? So I can walk underneath this. So if I pass something at this level, then you can walk underneath it like so. So that means that I'm not obstructing the path. I can still walk underneath it. It's just not as nice, let's say. It's just not as nice, but that's totally fine. And it's going to take the polymer resin all the way through, and then we'll be able to lift back on up. So let me go in and get another conveyor wall hole, and we'll put it right there. And how far away are we from the wall? This is dead center on the foundation. So I'm going to do the same exact thing just so we've got the same amount of slope. And I'm going to come from here and head right on up on default, and then we'll pass this through and connect. There it is. Okay, so that's going to be the path of the polymer resin. I just got to make sure that I've got it the appropriate color so that I know what it is. So we'll go with the white and the blue right there. Excellent. And polymer resin is going to flow through. It's going to be all blue, just like that. Okay, cool. We're making some progress. We'll get this conveyor wall hole. Place it right there, and then we just pass it right across. Make sure it's got the appropriate coloring. There we go. It's not too different from my standard, if I'm honest, but that's okay. That's okay. And then we'll just take the polymer resin. Oh, I'm sorry. It's right here. And there. Not this. Because this only takes heavy oil residue in. This is the polymer resin and the heavy oil residue out. And then we'll go ahead and accept all of that. There it is. So it goes in automatically. Perfect. So we'll just go ahead and color this up appropriately. And then we'll head downstairs. And we'll pass it into that hole. No problem. So standard stuff. We're just going to go ahead and have the output like this. And then we're going to merge them together. Make sure they're colored up. And I know it goes over here, and it's going to do that wiggle again. Am I cool with that? I might be able to get away with... Let me double check something. So what I'm going to do is get the merger and come out this way. Is it going to form a right angle? It looks like It might. Negative. It will not. So what I might need to do is get a merger and line this up. Let me just say hold. Bump that over. And that's looking a lot better. Bring that up and then bring this through. It's going to output right into the splitter or the merger. Like this. And then I'll take this off and then I'll just line this up as well. And that's my compromise, let's say. And then we'll just do the same thing. I'll just get rid of these two. Color these two up. And now pass it through. And at least there's some order to the chaos. That feels a lot better. That looks a lot nicer to me. Excellent. Okay, so this is where all the polymer resin's coming through at 230 per minute. That's going to flow through and head through this building just like that. Obviously, for now, I'm going to put a sink on this so it doesn't block up everything else that's going on. So I'm going to go ahead and grab an awesome sink. We will grab a lift, and I'm just going to slam that out like so. And I mean, obviously, we're going to pass this into refineries, but I want to test this out to make sure that it runs first before I do anything. And we'll just pass this down the lane and grab power all willy-nilly from somewhere, just like that. So that's powered. This passes through this building, and we're sinking it out temporarily. The only thing left to do is to take the oil output here and then pass it into these two. It almost makes me want to face the packager that way. You know what I mean? Now that I'm looking at it, because otherwise we've got to have... Yeah, I might do that. That's a bummer. I might do that. I totally might do that, which is going to... I'm going to need to redo these. Okay, that's what we're doing. I apologize. It's more work for me, but I know you just saw me do this, but I'm going to redo it because I want it to line up so that it just passes straight on out, and it's a simple piping work. I find the fluid dynamics to be a little more, a little less forgiving, let's say. So if I'm moving with solids, it's a lot easier than, you know, actually trying to merge pipes together and stuff like that. So just to stay away from that, I'm gonna line up the packagers with the refineries. Yeah. All right. So this is what's happening. We've got the oil drums. They're coming through. They're going into these packagers to unpackage the oil. Then they're going to dump out the empty canisters. The oil's going to come across. Oil goes into the polymer resin recipe refineries. They're going to output heavy oil residue merged 20 per minute together. Send 40 in. We're going to have 120 per minute of petroleum coke that's going to get sunk out right here. And then we are also going to take the polymer resin. They're going to go down underneath and then pass on over and get sunk out temporarily. So all we got to do is pass power to the packagers, and this is going to go. So we've got one and we've got two, and off they go. They're off to the races. So let's see. These are opening up. You can visually see the flow is picking on up. There we go. So the crude oil is going to flow in. I'm actually going to go ahead and put these on standby first, so that these pipes are gonna completely fill before I do anything. And this is now full, and that is now full. Let's go ahead and turn these on. There it is. So now all the crude oil is gonna flow on in. Heavy oil residue is coming out. She's gonna fill up. I almost feel like I can probably let that saturate. So heavy oil residue is coming on up. The polymer resin should start to flow across. There we go. Awesome. Like a little theme park ride. Oh, wait a minute. We got to wait for the internal buffer to fill as well. So it's almost there. There we go. Now it's starting to back up. With that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn it on now. There we go. So now that's going to flow on in, and it's going to slosh some more. But more importantly, we should start to see that petroleum coke. There it is. Excellent. And we should continue to see this go by at 260 per minute. Okay, perfect. Excellent. So that means that all of the oil drums are going across. We've got our oil coming in to produce polymer resin and heavy oil residue. We're sinking out petroleum coke. And now we've got the polymer resin, which we need in order to have 4 refineries on this side with some water in addition to it. So now where are we going to put this oil production? Because we also need water extractors as well. How are we going to do this in a neat and tidy way? I mean, I suppose we could have this asphalt road continue. It's 3 wide. So what if we start like this? And then I put it out as a reference point. Like that. I didn't really know what to do with this section here. I'm glad that we have this space. Don't get me wrong. I really, really am. And then we'll go ahead and have a wall right here. How long was this on this side? If we look, was it like 4 walls long? We could use this as an example because that's the exact number of refineries that we need. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 long. That's fine. So let's start with that. We'll have 6 across. So we got our wall. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll add 2 more. And then we'll extend from there. So let's just bring that out. Excellent. This is like the only time when we're going to have the water extractors just piping straight from the water. It feels wrong. I don't know. I might change it in the future, but for now, I just want the rubber. I just want the rubber, right? I just want the rubber. I did not think this was going to be a rubber episode. Here we go. And we'll get the polymer resin input here, right? Now, as far as an output, I do want to have a truck stop. And I guess the rubber is going to be earlier in the process for the computers and for the crystal oscillators. So sending our factory carts, I guess, straight across the main roadway doesn't seem like a bad idea. If I send them out this way, they'll have to make lots of turns. So I'm just trying to think about where to put the truck stop. I'm honestly, if we're going to go ahead and just do our refinery work here, then I suppose I could have them head down this way. This is a straighter path. That's a much straighter path and is probably going to be safer. But this is more towards the end of the line because it's where the nuclear power plants are. And I think that's probably, I'm going to be using this road for like the pressure, is it pressure conversion cube? Oh my gosh, I don't remember what they're called. Something conversion cube, right? Yeah, pressure conversion cube. I'm going to be using this for pressure conversion cubes most likely. So I'm thinking I do want to go around this side instead. I guess we'll face this way with the refineries. So let me go ahead and grab the 1 meter. We'll bring that across. You know what I'm thinking right now? Of course you don't, but right now in my mind, I am warring. I am absolutely warring with just using water extractors right here. It's the simplest thing to do by far. But up until this point, we've used drones for everything. And it feels like it doesn't fit. It just doesn't fit. And at the same time, I know how much work it is to get that water packaged and then unpackaged and then over here. But I suppose we do have room for unpackaging here. So I might just temporarily put in the water extractors here just to get these running and tested so that we can produce some rubber. But I may end up actually building out a system to unpackage the water, etc., etc. But you know, we'll get there when we get there. I can't believe I'm saying that. We're gonna put our refineries down and we're just gonna go in and get a row of 4 because they're gonna be exactly the same. And we're gonna mark it up. I've been using this like red and black for rubber, so I'm just gonna do the same. Not that there's any, you know, necessary reason to it. It's just following what I had before. And then we've got residual rubber. Now I had it coming out at, I think it was 32, was it 35.2 or 32.5? I'm going to need to overclock that. So we'll bring it on up to 32.5. That's 30. And then we come up with another 32.5. Yep, it's 65 in. That's correct. So if I copy this through, that's 65 times 4. And 65 times 4 should be 260. So we go 65 times 4. And it is in fact 260 because the polymer resin coming through is at 260 per minute. So the input is correct. That means we're going to need 260 per minute of water, which is honestly one water extractor. It's so easy. It's so simple. There's no reason not to do it. There's no reason not to do it. I actually think I'm gonna split this out just to match the copper sheet work down there. And we'll cut this out and then we'll just copy this through. I love the fact that when we copy and paste, it actually pastes out the power shards as well. I think that is so nice. It's so handy. And then we're going to go in and dig the walls and bring them up just so that there's a certain finality to it, right? There we go. We'll cut that out and do this. Okay, great. We're taking in the polymer resin. Polymer resin's coming in from down below. So let's handle that first because it's a solid. It's simpler. This is straight down the middle. So let's go in and put it right up. Just straight across. Let's not make it complicated. More complicated than it is. There we go. And the input is that blue and white. So we're going to do the same. And let's just go in and take care of it down below. So we'll cut this out. And we are going to receive. Now, I realize that lining it up exactly like this is not the best. I probably want a little space. I need a half click a difference. And the reason why is if I do this and pass her through, that allows me to do this and put the splitter on it, which then lines up. So that's why I'm doing that, right? So let's go ahead and just color that all up, and then I will make the adjustment across the board. So that's just the entry point right there, but I got to be a half click back. I can't be perfectly lined up just because we're offset a bit. Perfect. Now we just color it up. Excellent. And then have them all face the same way so that we can actually just pass them straight down the lane. It is easier if I color them up now before I start putting on the splitters, but now it's pretty simple, just like that. Excellent. And then we'll just pass the conveyors right on through. Perfect. All right, excellent. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and color that up. Perfect. So that distributes all the polymer resin. Now we need water. And honestly, one water extractor can overclock at 300 cubic meters per minute. But if I do, let's say 1 per 2, that's probably going to be a little more consistent, at least for now. Let me just go ahead and take this and we'll pass that through and across. There we go. So I'm just going to go ahead and color this up. Oh, hello. Oh, that took. It did not. There we go. I feel like if I can, it would be nice to get a buffer of this stuff. It'll probably have to be in here, but it's already pretty packed in here, let's say. I mean, I could get one bin here and just put it out like that. And what does that look like? Yeah, that's just gonna... Ooh, that's off. That is off. I didn't realize it was off like that. Is that right? That doesn't seem right. That actually seems all kinds of wrong. Oh, I had this off. I see. Okay, so this was off. All right. That was not in alignment at all. And that's throwing everything else off. Okay. That was so confusing to me. My gosh. Go figure. User error, right? I mean, that is expected at this point, yeah? User error. There's all kinds of weirdness going on here. All right. There it is. And then I suppose I need to bump this back even further. And what I'm talking about is because I want to have it relatively even between these two conveyor lift poles. Is that what they're called again? Stackable conveyor pole. That's what it's called. I want it to be relatively even because it's going to come up onto one as well. And then we'll do that. And that just seems like maybe we'll be in default mode and then come down. That is a look. That's a look. Fortunately, I don't have to look at it that often, but, you know, at the nuclear power level, this is what I come to expect, right? There we go. Although I accidentally colored this incorrectly. What is this? Oh, okay. This is the steel ingot, so it's carbon steel finish. There it is. Excellent. Okay, so that's flowing in. We'll pass in some polymer resin there. That's going to start to stack up. And excellent. All right. Pass that down. Okay. Yep. There's the right appropriate amount. So I'm going to go ahead and get a pole coming in Mark 3. And we'll just attach all this. And power, I suppose, there. And that should actually take that in. And that's flowing through perfect. And then coming out is going to be the rubber, but we need the water. Okay, so I could get one water extractor. Or I could get two. I mean, I guess it's temporary, so I'm just going to get two of them. And I'm just going to slam them out there just to get this processing, right? So we need to go to production, we need to go to water extractor, and then we need to do the horrible thing of putting a non-packaged water system. My gosh. Ugh. Horrible. My gosh. So bad. I don't know what I was thinking. Who would ever do such a thing? Golly. Here, let's stop being a water snob for a second. And we'll put that right in the middle. There it is. And then we'll have a short little pipe connecting them. And then it'll come back this way. There we go. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do the same thing. It's going to come through, have a bend, be on the line, have a bend like that. Excellent. And then we'll have our pipeline junction smack dab in the middle. Short connection right there. Excellent. And then we will have it come right up to the edge. Perfect. There it is. Look at that. Super, super squeaky clean. Love that. So now let's go ahead and get rid of our road for a second, but not actually the power lines. That would be a bit of a travesty as I fall into the water like a dunk tank. I will actually extend one foundation over. And then that way we can really actually line this up. Down and up. There it is. And are we even? We are not even. Gosh darn it. This is seriously what I go through when I play this game. It's not it's really not a big deal. But it is to me. It is to me, right? That's the trick. It is a big deal to me. So here we go. Just place that. Hold control. Coming across. Line her up. Does that work? Yeah, looks like it works. So now that I've done that, I'm going to cut these out. And then I'm going to cut this out. Not the power lines. Actually, you know what? Yeah, the power line's included. Because even though I'm going to fall in the water like a dunk tank, with my last dying breath, I'm going to run a power line like that. There it is. Okay, great. Excellent. Awesome. Already this is going so well. My gosh. And up we go. Simple water is a difficult thing. Okay, excellent. Looking good, feeling good. Ooh yeah. There we go. So this is going to take in 130 per minute of water. We might as well just crank this to the next level. So let's just go in and power this. And I'm going to go ahead and stick in. We're going to bring it up to 250% and just get this thing saturated like crazy until it stalls out. It's because we want this pipe to be full, right? We want this pipe to be blazing hot, blazing full, and the water should, hopefully make it up. I don't know if it's going to. I hope it will. It looks like it is, so that's looking great already, and that's chiming on up. Love that. Fill that in. And then the rubber's going to stack up on the backside. That's excellent. That's what I like to see. So with the rubber coming out, we don't have a place for it. So we're going to need a truck stop. So I suppose the easiest thing to do is just put one right here. And we're going to get... can we incorporate this into the building at all? I'm not too sure. So we'll go truck station like this. It's like it was designed for a truck station. Amazing, right? Absolutely amazing. We'll go and cut out this power pole. And then I'm going to grab the truck station. And if we snug that on up like that, or better yet, what happens if I were to bump this over one? What does that look like? It's no different. I'll put it right here. That's fine. And I just need a feed into it. I don't need anything else. So that means I can get away with a single conveyor wall hole right here. And then we'll be able to pass from here to there. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. That's not how that works. That's not how it works. Okay, in that case, down here. I know this is going to work. There it is. Okay, that's a lot better. And it's going to be rubber. So I'm going to mark it up the appropriate color. We'll get this on steel. And then let's go in and pass this on in. So what I'm going to do is get a lift. And we're going to bring it up to the ceiling. Let's go and close this off. Mark this up as rubber. And then this part's relatively simple. It's just a matter of, you know, getting the holes and we'll get a buffer and stuff like that. So actually, let's start with a buffer before I forget, right? So we'll kind of bring ourselves over and I'm going to get a singleton. Actually, no, I take that back. I'm all over the place today because, well, I'm always all over the place, but I'm always all over the place. But more importantly, because I'm not too sure where the outputs are going to be, right? So let's go in and put those in so that we have those as a reference point down below. Because everything looks different. It all seems to make sense until you actually get there, right? And then you need to deal with the logistics from a more personal angle, let's say. There it is. Man, I cannot believe this episode is about rubber. My mind can't get over that. Why am I making a whole episode on rubber when I'm working with nuclear? You know what? This is fine. This is fine. Heck, I'm going to have probably a whole episode on making a sandal or a slipper to go to the beach. Let's maybe that's next. How about that? All right, HB, just get over yourself. It's just rubber. My gosh. And don't you know that when the rubber hits the road, that's the most critical moment, right? It's like the king of traction. All right. Stop psyching yourself up. No need. We've got this. You've got this. All right, do it up, buddy. Hang in there. I talk to myself all the time just so that I can get through the day. In this case, I'm just trying to get through Satisfactory. I mean, what does that really say, right? What's that really say? Actually, you know, I think I might come out the other way. So I'm changing my mind already. Yep, that's right. This is how complicated rubber. This is how complicated rubber is, you know. All right, there we go. Excellent. It took how many hundreds of hours to get to this point? Wait, why are you still talking about rubber? Because you're making rubber, HB. Because you're making rubber. That's why. Okay. I'm just checking. There's no harm in checking, guy. I mean, me. All right, looking good. Nice. That's some merging. That's like some quality merging right there. Haven't seen that kind of merging since like 2 minutes ago. There it is. Perfect. That's what we like to see. So we'll keep it nice and tight. Right on up. And then we're going to bring this down like nobody's ever brought it down before. There it is. Oh my God, that lined up perfectly. Wow. So impressed with myself right now. That's incredible. Look at that. Wow. I didn't even need to do any sort of splitter shenanigans. That's amazing. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? My gosh. That's honestly quite impressive. It's quite impressive if you ask me. Now we're going to bring this on over across the wall, even utilizing things like wall mounts. Go figure, right? And then we're going to bring this on up and bump that over and then slam that on the wall. That's what we're talking about. That's the stuff. That's the ticket right there. Look at that. And it's going to slam itself into the truck station. Now, I do want to have some type of overflow because I wouldn't want this to back up because it's working with water. And anytime you work with fluids, that's just no bueno if things back up. So what I'm thinking is we're going to go ahead and take a smart splitter, slam it on there, and then just connect that like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and select a filter for the conveyor belt Mark 6 and do this. Did I get it? Oh, there, I got it. Sorry if I made you dizzy there. Okay, it's all good. Don't worry about it. You've got this. Excellent. Good job, HB. You got this. Hang tight. All right. Excellent. That's what we're talking about. Already loving it. Love it. And then right out the back, since we got a truck station here, we might as well have our sink. So I'll bring this out maybe one more. Perfect. And then I'm going to grab the awesome sink and we'll bump it right there. And then I'm going to get a conveyor hole wall. Steel, pass her through, and then red for sinking. Excellent. And we'll come on down. Ooh, look at that. That's a weird sort of angle. That's acceptable. I'm okay with that kind of shenanigans. That's fine. And then we just got to make sure that we overflow to the left and we rubber it up down the middle. There it is. Excellent. All right, so this should continue to fill up, I hope. Or am I missing something? Oh, you know what? Do we have power? Double check. So what's happening here? We're missing water. Oh, we're missing water? Are you serious? How are we missing water? What happened here? We have power. Is it just not able to pump that high? I mean, it got water up there. What the heck? What in the world? My goodness. Well, tell you what, I better put a pump on it. That might be too high. I mean, that's definitely more than enough. Excellent. And then we just gotta hook her up so that they actually pump. Excellent. All right. So is that gonna do the job? Looking good. We just needed a little more head lift, apparently. I guess that's more than 10 meters, which, yeah, that seems about right. And now we're getting that water. Excellent. Okay, so now we should be creating the rubber, and we are doing so. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, well, that means we've got rubber right here. We'll go ahead and just provide some power right there. And now this is going to suck that all into the truck station. Excellent. So, we have rubber. This is a huge triumph. This is a huge triumph. I'm all about this. And then, of course, we've got our little factory carts. So where are we going to take this? I mean, I suppose I don't really have a receiving truck station yet. So we probably want to set that up. And that means going back to our whiteboarding area all the way out here. My God, we're going to need a lot of factory carts. Or we use frickin' Explorer vehicles or something like that. My goodness. So we don't need these, because we set that up already. So this is all done. Awesome. And what are we doing with the rubber? We're sending it in for computers here. They're going to need rubber here, and we're going to need rubber here. And I think we need some rubber down the lane as well. But you know what? This is good. So how much rubber are we taking in? We've got 28 here, and we have 48 here. And 28 plus 48 is 76, and we are outputting, is it 200, 130. So we have more than enough. More than enough. We're going to have a crystal oscillator section, and we're going to have a computer section. Do we receive at the same place? We probably should receive at the same place. So I'm definitely going to want to have this road continue. So let's just paint this out. I kind of like this. By setting up a visual language of it's 4 wide going in on the main road, and then 3 going down the smaller ones, I'm able to kind of paint out exactly how much space I have to work with. I don't want to take up too much, so I think what I'm going to do is just I'm going to continue the painting and then use that as a reference point. So I've got this 3 wide right here. Let me just switch back over to concrete foundation to clean that up. So I assume we can put a truck station maybe somewhere here-ish. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm just sort of like spitballing it, right? So that'll be like rubber receiving truck station. It doesn't make sense to set up the path and do all of that yet, because I don't know for sure where this is going to be. And if I move the destination at all, then I'm going to have to re-record the path. So I'm not going to do that in this episode, but at least we will spitball and say that it's going to end up here. We've got all of the oil coming in from this drone port. That oil is passing on into 2 packagers. The packagers are unpackaging the oil, sending them over to these 2 refineries. The 2 refineries are doing the polymer resin recipe, and then they're outputting at 260 per minute all the polymer resin, which is getting sent down through our previous uranium power plant section. We also have heavy oil residue, which is coming out, creating 120 per minute of petroleum coke, which is getting sunk out. And then from there, we are taking all that polymer resin at 260 per minute, and we're sending it out to these 4 refineries where we are processing them at 162.5% each. It's very specific, but more importantly, between the 2 refineries, it's 130 per minute of water and 130 polymer resin per minute, which is exactly what we need, right? So then at that point, it's outputting a total of 130 per minute of rubber, and that rubber is heading into this truck station like this. That is going to fill up like crazy. I guess I don't really need the buffer. That is a huge buffer. And then we're going to have a bunch of factory carts that are going to send this on down. And probably the path, I suppose it'll go through here. I mean, it could come down here and then go down the main lane, maybe, like all the way out here. Or we can, yeah, it's going to have to do it. It's going to have to do it. It's going to have to come out here because this is such a wide building right here with no throughput. And I suppose we could already come this way and make a left. This is such a circuitous route, but there's no getting around it right now. I could also drone it, but I mean, at this point, it's fine. It's fine. The factory carts are fun, and you'll see them doing like a parkour course, and then it'll head out here. And then once we've got all the rubber, then it can feed into all these machines. And mind you, the green and the light blue are only half of the equation for the pressure conversion cubes. Then we got to do fused modular frames, which have heavy modular frames in it, and we're doing that from scratch. So that's a lot. That is a lot. I almost loathe trying to fit it in this amount of space right here, this empty concrete space right here, but I think we can manage. I think we can manage. It'll just be a fun challenge overall. Bunnies, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I didn't realize that we'd be doing a whole rubber episode, but you know what? That's what we are. We're here to get back to basics, you know. Nuclear power plant is all about exercising the basics, and that's exactly where we are. I'm very basic. If you enjoyed the episode, please feel free to like, share, or comment down below. It helps us a great deal. I had a total blast. I hope you did as well. And I can't wait to get into the next one with you. Have a wonderful, wonderful night.